Hello, this is News Central Television with me, Blessings Musugu. Here are the stories making headlines beyond the continent. And let's start in America, where Colorado's Supreme Court has ruled that Donald Trump cannot run for president next year in the state, citing a constitutional insurrection clause. The court ruled 4-3 that Trump was not an eligible candidate because he had engaged in an insurrection over the U.S. Capitol riot nearly 3 years ago. It does not stop Mr. Trump running in the other states, and his campaign says it will appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, the decision, they said, was completely flawed. The ruling only mentions the state's primary election on 5 of March, when Republican voters will choose their preferred candidate for president. But it could affect the general election in Colorado next November. Now, to further discuss this, I'm now joined by Ejike Okpa, a global affairs analyst from Texas, USA. Thank you, Mr. Okpa, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Mr. Okpa, looking at the ruling, what precedent does this ruling set for the future candidates who may have engaged in insurrectionist activities in the past?
It doesn't say, this is the first time it's happening. And, when the founders, put that in the Constitution, they did it, after the Civil War to prevent people who actually participated in insurrection. And since then, no president has ever had to be subjected to what Trump is going through. So, other states have ruled that there's no basis to prevent any candidate to do this. But, Trump is a lightning, rod anywhere he goes, especially for the establishment, the Democrats and those who just don't want to see him be on the ballot because they're afraid he's going to win. So that is why they are throwing everything at him using the court. And Colorado has just become an errant Supreme Court ruling. Of course, we're going to U.S. Supreme Court, and that I can assure you that it's going to be thrown out because there are no basis for it. He was a president when this thing happened, and he's also protected by immunity, that is afforded him because of his role as president as of January 6, 2021. So we'll see. But again, the lawyers are the ones we work for in America. They file anything and hopefully they get their ruling or whatever they want. And then we have the appeal process. And then we go to the Supreme Court. Trump has not been convicted, for insurrection, nothing. He just went to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court, obliged them with their ruling. But that's not the end of it. In fact, it's going to make him more popular because we are, Americans are upset because then if you set this unnecessary precedent, what's going to happen? Any little thing anybody does, they'll take you to court. In 2003, when I filed to run for mayor of Dallas, the city secretary's office, just like the Colorado's office of Secretary of State that organized this election, said I wasn't qualified. It was an administrative ruling, and I took them to court. I took them to federal court, and I won. So let the voters decide who they want to, they want to be elected, not courts and not administrative setups.
Right. But how exactly will this ruling impact the separation of powers between the branches of government, particularly between the judiciary and the executive?
Well, like I said, the courts, whenever you file something, the courts are going to look at it, they're going to rule one way or the other. So, it's actually the separation of power between the various arms of government. The point is that the ruling, other states, Michigan tried to do it and they threw it away. Some other states have tried it and they said there are no basis for it. So Colorado now just become the short term sticking out to do this. Again, that's fine. Yeah, we're just going to have to appeal it. And by January 5th, a decision has to be made by U.S. Supreme Court because, you have from January 5th to March 5th, you have 2 months for somebody to be on the ballot. And assuming they even rule against him in the Supreme Court, Trump doesn't need to win to Colorado to be president. It's just that we don't want states to now come up and start to, singular candidates they don't like with some other lousy, flimsy excuses, to say, oh, you can't be on the ballot. If you're an American citizen and you qualified, you're 35 years of age, born in this country, and you have 12 years if consistently to the date you filed to run for president. Those are the three requirements. This other thing about, the amendment, the 14th Amendment that said insurrection, that's a mute something. But again, we have so many laws on the books that any clever lawyer or individual can go and invoke them, to see if they can make a case. They've made their case, but their case is not going to be the lasting, opinion on this matter.
Right. Now, with all of these happening, what message does this ruling send to the American people about the seriousness of the event of January 6th, which was the U.S. Capitol attack?
Well, it sends message, but then the issues surrounding that January 6th, there are always conspiracy theorists in America. There are people out there that say, the Democrats even instigated that to January 6th, because again, they know what they are trying to do. So the tapes on the hearing, the tapes on the actual things that happened on that day is being suppressed. Some Democrats don't want it to be, revealed, but they're going to. Jack Smith, who is filed, suing, Trump on behalf of, Justice Department, he's never even he's never used insurrection as one of the charges against him. So we don't know. January 6th is still up in the air, hopefully before the end of the year or before the election next year, there may be some tapes released to now show that Trump wasn't even as culpable as, many people think that he was.
Right. And does this ruling have the potential to stoke any further political polarization and division in the United States?
Of course, everything we do here, we're very divisive. Democrats and Republicans, we all want to win the election. But very unfortunately, the Democrats are the ones that come up with all kinds of tricks. And Trump, again, the hatred and resistance towards Trump is because he's been one president that got to the office without having worn the uniform, never served as at any political level. So there are people who just feel that these guys stepped in to change, what they consider to be the historical route to become a president. And it just makes them have sleepless nights. And they, since Biden got in, every day in the news, there's always a Trump story. So the Biden himself had even had a quiet moment because there's always the former president and the president, going at it. And the Democrats are so bent, in wanting to see that Trump doesn't, win the nomination. And if he wins the nomination, we can be assured his way to the White House is going to be very, very assured. So again, that's America, from the 1776 to 1789, when, Constitutional Conference was held in Philadelphia. It has always been a divisive. But the thing is, we haven't been able to have wars since then. We just have war of words. And then there are all kinds of tricks, that we use. Like I said, I've run for office. I understand this resentment when they think you shouldn't be the one. When I ran for Congress, they said, are we ready for a Nigerian American to do that? It's not because I wasn't a viable candidate. It was just because some people feel, hey, we don't want this guy because he might set some precedent for, a whole bunch of people. And I'm fine with it. But I'm credible, and Trump is credible, and so many people are credible. But the thing is, do you have the internal resources as well as the strength to stand up and be a candidate? It's not easy, but those who believe in it do it, and some of them have been successfully elected.
All right, Mr. Ejike Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst from Texas, USA. Thank you for joining us on the news.
Well, thank you for having me.
My pleasure.